right, welcome back everyone. Up next, we have James Vincent with Intro to 3270. James has been working with CVM systems for over 40 years and has been at Velocity for 9 years. He loves kayaking and sitting on the beach with a good book. Go ahead, James.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be walking through the basics of using 3270, or really TN 3270, with a ZVM system with you. So to start off, 3270 is the console or terminal access for IBM mainframes. That is, or has traditionally been, a physical piece of hardware, as you can see from the picture at the bottom of this slide. And that is one of the original IBM 3277 terminals used to access the mainframe system. So what happens now is TN 3270 is doing 3270 data transmission over TCP/IP, and I'll get into that in a moment. So 3270, it minimizes how much data and how much interrupt is going over the line because it transfers blocks of data instead of individual characters. Things like SSH and terminal emulators like that will do it character by character. So each time you type a character, something is transmitted. Whereas 3270 is going to wait for an interrupt key, like the enter key or a PF key. So data is sent in blocks. And I mentioned TN3270. It is really simply 3270 over TCP/IP or Telnet. Now, the software and client options, they include, this is not inclusive or completely inclusive of everything that's out there, but the Vista TN3270 product from Tom Brennan Software, that's the product that I am going to be using to show examples throughout this presentation. So you can access that software via that website. I would recommend this software if you have a Windows machine and you do not have any TN3270 client already. The software is very powerful. It's very inexpensive, but I've been using this for many years, and it is extremely well done piece of code. There's also WC3270 for Windows and C3270 for Unix, Linux machines, and also X3270, which is an X-based 3270 client. There's other vendors that offer their own options, IBM, Rocket Software, and a handful of others. So there's a number of options that are out there. Now, hopefully most of you already know through all the emails that you have your own training user ID that we have set up for you. If you do not have access to a ZVM system, the training user ID is going to be very useful to you. But if you ever want to be able to get to a training user ID in the future, if this ID that we assigned is gone, you can come to our demo site and set one up anytime you need to. So if you want to learn more, you can just come over to the demo site and build one. Now, the details on accessing our system, where this training user ID is listed here. It's also in the emails that were sent out. I understand that some people may have corporate firewall access issues trying to connect to our systems, but we'll talk about that at the end of this presentation. Now, what I'm showing here is a default ZVM logo from the Vista 3270 client. And this is just showing you what you would see the first time you fire up access to a VM system with this particular client. There's a menu bar with all the some menu options that you can choose, and there's also a line of buttons that allow you to do certain actions by point and click. I also showed the keypad. There's a keypad that can pop up that you can choose to pop up that has important keys. And these important keys are something we'll talk about in depth a little bit more, but it's just showing you you can visually get access to certain functions on your 3270 panel. A lot of the other TN3270 clients have very similar function and feature as far as how they display things to you. Um, but this is just to show you you have the choice of how you want it to look. Now I am, I guess, a minimalist. I like doing things by command line. I like, being able to keep my hand on the keyboard, and you can turn off all those buttons. So it's completely optional how you want your 3270 to look. Now this screen is showing you our website. So if you are able to connect to our demo site, you will get our logo on the screen, and the logos are configurable. So that is something you can do as a VM systems programmer. You can change the logos. If you tap enter on a ZVM logon screen, you get prompted so that the system's going to prompt you if you didn't put your login credentials on the screen. And it gives you options for doing a few other things also if you want to. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on the status bar. And again, a TN3270 client is going to have very, very similar information available on the lower bar of your TN3270 client. And a lot of this information is interesting and something you want to be aware of. So the status bar helps you determine what kinds of things, what the status is of the particular session, and how you're connected to the system. So you can see things like your whether the session is encrypted or not, and if there's a little lock in this case, then the session is set up to go over SSL or TLS. It also tells you things like where your cursor is on the screen, whether or not you have caps lock on, etc. The information in the middle is date and time, just so current date and time and what you're connected to. And that is also configurable, that you can change it, so you can set it up to show any other information that you might want. Now, some detail on the terminal status descriptions. Again, these are important just so you know what the state of your session is. So if you're not connected to anything, your client's going to show a disconnect. And if you're in the midst of connecting, it'll show connecting and letting you know that it's trying to negotiate with the host that you've requested. The other parts that are interesting to know about, or important to know about, especially, is the X system. That means that the session is waiting for something. It's waiting for the host to respond to the last request that you sent. If X system stays on the status area, that means that something is delaying the response. It could be that your network may be slow, or your network actually timed out or disconnected. So if it continues to show X system, then you've got some type of network issue, or the host system you're connected to is just very, very slow to respond. The other ones are the little guys, the one little person with the right left arrow, and the person with the greater than sign next to it. Those are indicating that something is going on with input. So your cursor may be on a non-input area, and the system, the TN3270 client, will tell you that by showing you that little status. So just a few little things to pay attention to. Now, in traditional 3270, there were models, standard model sizes for those 3270 devices. So the physical devices were actually built with standard number of rows and columns of characters allowed on that particular device. Those standard sizes carried forward with TN3270. So in TN3270 in the clients, you can define the standard model sizes of 24 by 80, 32 by 80, etc. But TN3270 does allow you to define your own screen size. And I would highly recommend you define your own screen size if you are using current widescreen monitors. So if your laptop or your external monitors are widescreen, you can benefit from setting your own height and width. And in the example I show below, you can see I set it to a user terminal mode with a 48 row by 140 column screen. So it gives me a larger screen area for my widescreen monitor. Now, shifting a little bit into the ZVM world, once you get logged on to a ZVM ID, the status area of your CMS session will help you determine the state of your console. So there's 6 states that you can have on the bottom right-hand side of your 3270 when you're logged in. Running is always good. So running means the program's running, CMS is doing what it's supposed to, or you've entered a command or a program and it's currently working. Holding means the console is held, which means that there's messages on your screen and CP or the control program is waiting to show you some more messages. So it's letting you know the screen's being held, but there's more to show. More, ... that means there's more to see and the clear will be pending. CP by default will clear your screen after a certain amount of time. So if there are messages that fill your screen and there is more to see, CP will automatically clear it after a certain number of seconds. And then VM read and CP read, that the system is telling you it's waiting for input. So something is asking for input at that point. And then not accepted, that means the system or your session, your CMS session, is in a state that it's not going to accept any more keystrokes or interrupts, and it's waiting to complete something that it was working on. So just be aware, if you're not sure what's going on, it's always a good idea to move your eyes down to the right corner and see what the state of your session is. Now, logging onto your VM user ID, if you remember at the beginning with the pictures of the 3270 host sessions, there's from the logo panel, you can enter your user ID and password. So you can log in right there. Or you can tap enter. Well, you can actually use the command line on the initial login screen and type log on and then your user ID and tap enter to get prompted for the password. You can also tap enter from the logo without entering anything and do the exact same thing. You enter log on and your user ID, tap enter and get prompted. Now, there's going to be times when your user ID is logged on somewhere else. So this could be from a network outage, or let's say you stepped away from your desk and you went somewhere else and you need to log on to your user ID. You can use log on space user ID space here on the command line. That here operand will let you, basically the system will log you on to the terminal that you're at and disconnect you from the terminal that you were logged on to. And probably for the future, you may need to log into a user ID that is not yours, but you've been assigned what's called surrogate access or logon by access to be able to get access to that user ID. So you would actually log on to another user using your user ID and credentials. So the syntax of the command of log on, the other user ID, and then keyword by, and then your user ID. For example, the logon ZVPS by James. And then after you hit the enter key, you enter your password, and you actually then get logged on to the other user ID. Now, case normally does not matter in Z systems when you log on, and for commands. So your user ID and password, the standard, the usual 8-character password for ZVM systems, those can be entered in any case. So it doesn't matter. They're all going to be translated to uppercase. If your system is built with passphrases, and those are the very long, up to almost 200 characters, strings that can have spaces and all types of characters, then the case does matter. It's mixed case. So your passphrase has to match exactly. Now, for example, some things you could try on your own VM user ID at some point. QDisk in lowercase or QDisk in mixed case, etc. You can see there the case for the commands really don't matter when you're working in the ZVM system. There are a number of things where case will matter, but for most commands and most cases or most situations, the case doesn't matter. Now it starts getting important here as far as the special and important functions that you're going to want to do, and you're going to want to map your keys, your keyboard usage to those functions. So there are specific ones you're going to want to find and know about, and you can remap them if you want, but it's a really good idea to look for them in whatever TN3270 client you choose. It's really a good idea to find these keys and where they are mapped so you know how to get to them. So PA1, that breaks into CP. PA2, that clears the main input area of the TN3270 session, but it does retain any command that you may have typed on the command line at the bottom. Clear clears the entire screen, so it clears the main area and the command line. Reset resets the emulator. That helps to clear up issues when your input is inhibited for some reason. So if something gets locked up or your keyboard gets locked up and you see, if you remember the little guy at the bottom, or even an X system, you can hit reset and try to recover your 3270 session. And the enter key, that's used to submit commands and changes to the content of your session. So those are important keys to find and figure out where they are. I showed you the floating keypad in Vista TN3270. If you don't remember where those keys are and you need one and you're using the Vista TN3270 client, just do a view and then keypad and pop that keypad up and you'll have access to those via the buttons. So these are some default settings for the Vista TN3270. So using the control key plus the home key is the default for PA2 to clear the screen. The pause key on your keyboard is the default for clear, so that will clear the entire screen. Your left control key is the reset key, and I put in there consider the escape key. It just seems more logical to me these days to map the reset to escape, because escape just in a lot of cases, a lot of other applications, escape helps you clear out of what you were trying to do. So I just map it to the escape. The left control key is the traditional location for the enter key on the 3270 devices. So that's why it's mapped in that location. And then the right control or the enter key are the default mappings for the enter key. And the right control key location, again, is the traditional location on the actual 3270 devices. Some extra information as far as basically trying to how to recover out of loops or things that are running that you don't necessarily want to continue running. The alt insert, so the alt key plus insert is PA1, and that will allow you to break into CP and IPL. And you'll be hearing a lot more detail about some of the CP and CMS things in a later session. HX is halt execution, so you can halt something that was running, an application that was running, or HI, which is halt interpreter, which will stop a REX program that may be running. And again, we'll talk about REX in greater detail in a later session. And then #CP IPL or #CP log off. Those will immediately break into CP and IPL your session or log you off the system. So just again, handy reference in case you need it. Now controlling a little bit of the scrolling that may occur on your session. You can control this with a CP command with CP term more and then 2 keywords for seconds, and also include hold on or off. You want to know more about that CP term, you can type help CP term when you're logged onto your user ID, and then press PF11 and select terminal more in the list that's provided. And it will give you a lot more detail on that command. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip over to a 3270 session just to show you what this looks like. So hopefully you can see the 3270 session on your screen. If I type the CP query term, that's going to show you what my terminal settings are. And if you look down on that output, you'll see more is 5010 and hold is off. Now what that tells CP is wait 50 seconds if the screen is full, and it's going to sound the TN3270 bell. So all the clients will have an alarm or what they traditionally will call the bell. After 50 seconds, if your alarm or the sound is turned on for the client, it will sound that alarm, whatever sound you set. After 50 seconds, it's going to wait 10 more seconds and clear the screen. The hold is for CP messages. So if you have an important message from the CP system on your screen, it will put your session into holding. Instead of more ... it'll show holding down at the right side. So let's try this. If I do a list file command like this, and you may not know what this command does, it's just going to type out all the files that I have accessed on the P disk. So it's going to be screens. I have to clear the screen and keep going quite a few times. You can see the more down in the bottom. And if we sit here and wait 50 seconds or more, or it's actually 60 seconds, you'll see the screen clear by itself. But I'm clearing the screen. There's a lot of files. If I didn't want to see all of that and have to clear my screen constantly, I can set CP more 00 hold off. So I can turn those seconds down to 0. And if I do that command again, watch very closely. Did you catch it? It cleared so fast after outputting all of those files, and it ended up on the very last part of that list. So to show you a little more about that, you can set your seconds to, let's just make it 1 second. Try that. And okay, now watch when I do it now. It's going to wait 1 second and automatically clear the screen. So you've got different options on what you're running to adjust and manage the scrolling of the output. If you know you're going to be getting a lot of output, but you kind of want to keep an eye on it, you can set your terminal more down to the 1 second or 2 seconds, and you can still keep an eye on it, but let it keep running. Okay, so terminal more is definitely something to keep in mind if you've got output coming out or produced onto your consoles that you want to be able to scroll through a lot faster. If you're done working on your session, your TN3270 session, and you're logged on to your VM user ID, but you plan to come back. Let's say you're going to go to lunch. You're going to get up from the desk and go get some coffee or whatever. You can disconnect. So you can disconnect your session from your TN3270 client. That keeps you logged on the host system, but not connected to any terminal. So nobody can walk into your office and get on your keyboard and start entering commands that you don't want them to. So you can just use the simple command DISC or cpdisk or #cpdisk. They're all going to generally work the same. And disk, DISC, is short for disconnect, but it's just easier to type. When you want to get back to the system, you log back on. So when you log back on, you're going to reconnect, and the system will tell you you've reconnected and when. It gives you the date and time stamp. Now, if you were in an Xedit session or some full screen session, if you tap enter, the status is going to change to more ... You clear the screen and you're back again into where you left off in the Xedit session. So if at any point you reconnect to a system and you happen to tap enter, or you type a command and hit enter, and it ends up with more ... at the bottom, just clear your screen and it'll present you back with where you left when you got disconnected. Now, when you're totally done, you're going home for the day, but you're done with your VM session, you log off. So, and this is best done at the ready prompt so that you don't lose any work. If you enter log off while you're editing a file and you forgot to save, all of your updates are gone. So again, it's really a good idea to just log off from the CMS ready prompt. So just like disconnect, you just enter log off or CP log off or #CP log off. Again, they all do pretty much the same thing. You can use the short version of log. I personally prefer typing out log off so that I know exactly what I'm doing, because log off logs you off. It ends your host session completely. Now, do note all of your clients, if you close the TN3270 window without logging off or disconnecting, it's not really a good idea to do that, and should only be done for very short-term type of things. So if you're you need to reboot real fast because something went wrong or the 3270 got locked up, whatever the case may be, you can close the 3270 window and reopen your TN3270 to reconnect to the host. That's perfectly okay. But if you're done, if you're going to disconnect or you're going to log off, do those commands first and then close your TN3270. All right, it's time for your very, very first quiz. Sam is going to pop up a quiz for all of you to take. Sam?
All right, you should see Slido pop up on your screen on the right-hand side. We already have people joining in. You just need to hit the join button. And then I will launch the first question.
Very good. All right, so finding important keys. I mentioned that keypad, the show the keypad on your screen is really a neat thing to be able to do. Until you learn where all your keys are mapped, that can come in very handy. And then the console status for clearing your screen. Hopefully, we got a few chuckles out of unplug your router. Please don't unplug your router. But yeah, you just hit the clear or PA2 so that the system can show you more messages. Very good. Okay, moving on. Now, something you're going to probably want to be able to do is transfer files from your user ID down to your PC or send them to be able to send them to other places. Most TN3270 clients will support IND dollar file transfers. The IND dollar file it works pretty well for small to medium sized files. It will work for large files. So a very large file will work, but it will take quite a bit of time to either upload or download that particular larger file. So IND dollar file is a utility that uses your CMS user ID as a server and your current TN3270 window as a client. So anytime you do a file transfer in TN3270, the session is unavailable. So you can't do other things. You can't work on your VM user ID while a file transfer is in progress. So IND dollar file transfers, if you have no better option, it will work just fine for you. It's not the speediest thing, but it gets the job done. But if you have access to FTP or a secure FTP connection, there are clients for Windows, there are clients for Linux that you can have or get access to possibly that you can connect through FTP to be able to transfer data back and forth. FTP will be a lot faster, but IND dollar file certainly will work. Now, preparing files for file transfer. If it's just a plain text file, there's nothing special about it. It's just a text file. You really don't need to do anything terribly special with those. For binary files or very large files to download, it is best to do a copy file pack, and that builds and condenses that file down into a packed format so that you can transfer it in binary down to your PC, and no characters will get translated or changed to something else that is going to mess up that file. The other thing is when you upload the file somewhere else, you want to continue to use binary. If you do any kind of character translation, it's going to mess up the file. But copy file pack will help you preserve the content. So uploading with copy file packed files, you want to specify binary and set the IND dollar file options to use rec FMF for record format fixed and LRECL 1024, logical record length 1024. Once that file is back up on VM, you can unpack the file with copy file and then the file name, file type, file mode, and open paren unpack. And if it was transferred correctly down and up, it will unpack for you. To begin a file transfer, make sure you're at the CMS ready prompt. Don't do a file transfer if you're in any other command or any other full screen application. It's always best to be at the ready prompt. It's also a good idea just to clear your screen. Make sure there's nothing on the screen at all. And then from the menu, you can select the transfer option and then use send to host to upload or receive from host to download. For example, the receive from host is on the left. This is just a dialog box from that. And then I included both of them. So one of them was supposed to be send to host. So I will walk through. Oh, I'll back up. So this is the receive from host example in both cases. The one on the left is setting the options to binary and the host to CMS, making sure that I'm downloading the file called ZVM class packed A in binary from a CMS system, and it's going to save it as ZVM class.packed in my downloads directory. And then if you look to the right, now I'm downloading a file called ACC tools exec, and I've set it to text in the data selection. So it's just plain text. It's going to do a character translation from EBCDIC to ASCII in this case. So it's going to do an ASCII translation, and it's going to also look for the carriage return line feed characters. Those are the two options that are selected by default for TN3270. Now a send, if I want to send something up to my VM user ID, let's say I want to send up the ZVM class.packed file, I would tell it where on the target host area where I want to save that file and what I want to save it as. And then click options because I know this file is CMS packed. I want it in binary, but I also want it in a specific format so that I can unpack it when it uploads. That's what the options will let you see and set. So as you can see, the up area with the red circle, I added recfmf and lrecl 1024. Now, something to keep in mind when you're doing file transfers like this, if you've set your options, you probably want to look at your options before you start another file transfer to make sure it's set the way that you expect them to be set for the file that you're uploading. So it's if you know the content of your file, just be sure that your settings are correctly defined for that particular file. The ones that are being shown to you right now are specifically for CMS packed files in order to retain their structure and content. So transferring files up and down, again, something that's probably going to be important to you. And if you do not have FTP access, the IND dollar file transfers work perfectly fine. You just have to take a little bit of time to get used to all the different options you can select, but the screens that I've given you on this presentation should get you started really well. Now you have some homework to do. Your homework is to set up your TN3270 client. If you have one already, great. If you do not, it would be a good idea to get one. Again, I would highly recommend Vista TN3270 for Windows, but you have other options out there. Define your session to the Velocity Software demo system with the details that were provided in this session and in your email inviting you to this WebEx. Log on to your class user ID that we provided. You can poke around and look around at your leisure, and that's really all your homework is. We can see when you have logged on to the system with your training user IDs. So we will be looking to see who has actually logged on. And if you logged on, that's a checkbox, that's a check mark saying that you completed your homework. And that goes towards your completion certificate. So if you didn't get logged on, you may not get your certificate at the end because you didn't finish your homework. Now, if you are behind a corporate firewall and cannot get connected and don't have access to another laptop or another PC, a non-corporate network, to be able to access our site, if you have access to your own ZVM system, so your company system, you can use your own ZVM user ID. All you need to do is just show in an email um, that you logged on. Just show the logo and show that you logged on. That's it. And then you could just send an email to homework@velocitysoftware.com and just include your training user ID. You don't even need to do that. Just send an email with the screenshots to homework@velocitysoftware.com. If you're having difficulty getting your TN3270 client set up, we're going to stick around for a little while after this session and try to help everybody out that we can to get connected and get their TN3270 working properly. There's not much of anything that we can do to help if you're on a corporate firewall. That is completely up to your network people and your security people. Usually it's because either the IP address is blocked or the port is blocked or both. So a lot of corporations will block unknown external sites. So that's it. This hopefully gave you a introductory example of how to use TN3270 with ZVM. If you have more questions, you can send them anytime to questions@velocitysoftware.com and we will do everything we can to help you out. And we gave you a couple links that you probably already know about. But if you have additional questions right now or have issues or things that we can help with, we're going to stick around and help anybody that needs it.
All right, thank you, James. That was great. Thank you everyone for attending our session today. We will see you all back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Like James said, our team will be staying on a little bit longer if anybody needs immediate help. Otherwise, all questions can be emailed to questions@velocitysoftware.com. Thank you.